This is Mac OS Ken.
One analyst expresses worry over iPhone, more Apple Intelligence to try out, and Apple Music Classical gets teeny tiny liner notes. It is Wednesday, the 25th of September, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management, your solution for MDM and identity and access management. Learn more at onepassword.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more in that your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. It could be the most pessimistic, upbeat note you'll hear in a while. Needham analyst Laura Martin, who is positive on Apple's shares with a relatively high price target, thinks Apple is more dependent on iPhone than most people realize. A piece from MarketWatch highlighted and excerpted a note she wrote. Pulling points from that, fiscal year 2025 will see iPhone generate $215 billion in revenue for the Cupertino company in her estimation, just over half of the company's anticipated total revenue. Services could pull in $108 billion in revenue over the same time, just over a quarter of the company's anticipated total. The way she sees it, 100% of that services revenue is dependent on iPhone ownership, according to MarketWatch. She expects the rest of Apple's hardware to generate about $97 billion in revenue in fiscal year 25, but all of that is also contingent on iPhone ownership in her estimation. To her way of thinking, people who stop using iPhones would also end up dropping Macs, iPads, and all the rest. Martin's note says her team worries that Apple is a hardware company in an era of software disruption. She also questions whether Wall Street is discounting Apple shares enough to account for the heavy reliance on iPhone. While that sounds like a pretty big con, the pros apparently outweigh it for Ms. Martin. She seems to like the fact that Apple's not sinking gobs of money into generative artificial intelligence infrastructure and large language models that bring no visible revenue upside. Of course, at least some of that money could go back into Apple's robust stock buyback program, a thing about which Martin is said to be upbeat. Martin has a buy rating on Apple shares. Her price target on the shares is $260. The next public betas with Apple Intelligence are out, along with a couple of others. Mac Rumors ran a piece Tuesday that had the Cupertino company seeding the second betas of iOS 18.1, iPadOS 18.1, and macOS Sequoia 15.1 to the public beta program. They were accompanied by the second betas of watchOS 11.1 and tvOS 18.1, neither of which do the Apple Intelligence thing. Of course, the three that don't do all of the Apple Intelligence things. Not all AI capabilities have been added, says Mac Rumors, but the beta includes writing tools, SIRI updates, summaries, AI-powered focus modes, and smart replies. The betas can be run on iPhone 15 Pro or later, as well as Macs and iPads powered by Apple's M1 processor or later. Of course, you have to be a member of the public beta program as well. More info on that is available at beta.apple.com. Apple's had to yank another bit of software over bricking. I told you Monday that the company had pulled the version of iPadOS 18 specifically for M4 iPad Pro. That was thanks to the operating system turning an unknown number of the devices into thin, sturdy, well-designed paperweights. Now a piece from Mac Rumors says the company had to haul back the second developer beta of HomePod software 18.1. According to the piece, reports online a couple of places had some users saying that installing this beta on their HomePod Mini resulted in the speaker going into a bricked state, meaning that it no longer functioned. A few users said they were eventually able to restore the HomePod Mini using the Apple Configurator app on a Mac. The developer beta is said to have been pulled Monday night. It was still MIA Tuesday, according to the report. If you're a Verizon customer with a new Apple Watch Series 10 with cellular connectivity or a new Apple Watch Ultra 2, you may be ready to pack it in at this point. AppleInsider says owners of Apple's chronometer who have Verizon as a carrier are having trouble activating the cellular bit unless the watch was bought from Verizon. According to one customer of that carrier, when Verizon receives product from Apple for their inventory, Verizon logs the IMEI number into their system. When you go through activation, the watch app looks for the IMEI in the Verizon system, finds it, and voila, a connection to the Verizon network is made. But, he goes on to say, watches bought from anyone else, including from Apple itself, seem to stymie Big Red system. Since the IMEI serial number is not in Verizon's database, the customer says the Apple Watch will not be activated. Of course, it will be activated eventually, but it apparently takes interminable interaction with Verizon reps, none of whom seem to be aware of the issue. Sounds maddening. New features this week for some mostly old music. iDownload blog says Apple Music Classical for iPhone has been updated with new features, including digital album booklets containing liner notes, images, biographies, and more. I gotta say, I was really excited when the report said the album booklets are downloadable PDF files. I guess there's a difference, though, between downloadable and savable. Informative, if not as convenient as it could be. To access the booklet, users just hit the thing that looks like a book at the top of the screen. Then it's a bunch of scrolling and pinching to zoom and reading really tiny writing. Not every recording has an associated booklet. If you don't see the little book at the top of the screen, there is not a booklet for that recording. At least not yet. The booklets are part of version 2.0 of the Apple Music Classical app. The app itself is free, though accessing the music does require a subscription to Apple Music. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, 1Password Extended Access Management. Anywhere you find people, you're going to find people taking shortcuts. Sometimes it's because they're in a hurry, sometimes it's to get around an impediment, sometimes they're just plain lazy. From parks to processes, if there is a quicker or easier way to get to the end, people are going to take it. It's not a big deal when you're walking, but when you're working, that's different. You have set up a whole system with an eye on productivity and security. Without realizing it, your workforce and their need for speed could put that security at risk. 1Password Extended Access Management can help mitigate that risk. It puts unmanaged devices, unknown applications, and rogue identities under your control, making sure every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional identity and access management and mobile device management miss. It is security for the way people actually work. It's available now to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at onepassword.com/macOSKen. That is the number 1, onepassword.com/macOSKen. It looks like the Apple Penn Square retail employees in Oklahoma City finally actually really have a union contract. Really and finally. After preliminary approvals and a tentative agreement, Engadget ran a piece Tuesday saying the group has voted to ratify their first collectively bargained contract. The vote was finalized Monday night, according to a press release from the union. Highlights of the 3-year agreement are said to include wage increases of up to 11.5% over the next 3 years, worker involvement in scheduling and guaranteed paid time off to vote, a safer and more democratic workplace with a grievance and arbitration process, and the establishment of joint safety and health and working relations committees, job protection in the event of a store closure or relocation and severance pay, and guaranteed paid time off, health, and other benefits. And it only took 2.5 years. For a fun take on Apple and its stores, we turn to The Tonight Show. Mac Rumors says Apple CEO Tim Cook did a lighthearted walk and talk around New York City last Friday with Tonight Show host Jimmy Fallon. Did it make news? It did not. Honestly, we learned more about Fallon than we did about Cook, though the world does know now that Tim Cook prefers mustard on his hot dogs over ketchup. Making their way from Apple's Glass Tabernacle on Fifth Avenue to the company's Upper East Side store, Mac Rumors says the two discussed Tim Cook's 27-year journey at Apple, during which Cook admitted he never expected to become CEO. On the tech front, Cook expressed excitement about Apple Intelligence, which is set to start rolling out next month. Cook talked up upcoming features like automatic email summarization and fun new creative tools like Genmoji and Image Playground. As I say, no news was made, but fun was had. You can catch the just under 5-minute feature on YouTube. And finally today, once you and Fallon and the CEO are done strolling NYC, you can catch a seriously gripping trailer from Apple TV+. Cult of Mac hipped me to the first full trailer for Disclaimer, the limited series from 5-time Academy Award winner Alfonso Cuarón. Starring Kate Blanchett, Kevin Kline, Sacha Baron Cohen, Cody Smith-McPhee, and a host of others, the 7-parter tells the story of a writer who has made her living revealing the secrets of others, only to have her life start to unravel when an unknown someone writes a book revealing her secrets in return. While trailers can be misleading, my words do not do this trailer justice. You can see it for yourself now on YouTube. Disclaimer starts its limited run on Friday, the 11th of October. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management. Learn more at onepassword.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.